Ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, welcome. We are now in NBA Grinders Live. I'm Will Priester, Chief Justice '06, joined today by my man, Justin Carlucci, the Luch. Justin, what is up, my friend?
Not much. Just got back from a little vacation, ready to talk some Thursday hoops. Had a busy week, a lot of basketball, World Fantasy Championship. So I've been in. I'm ready to dive in. Let's get to it, my man.
Man, listen, talk to us. Talk to us about. I don't want to open any wounds here. Talk to us about the DK online experience. I've only been to some live finals. Haven't done it online yet. What was it like? How did you feel? I know you didn't enjoy where you finished, where you placed, but outside of that, man, how was it?
No, it's all good. They did their best to incorporate that to get that live feeling that you were there. And it's COVID. It's COVID season. It's 2020, and everybody's adapting. So kudos to DK for doing everything they can. Kept everybody engaged with doing some online stuff. I did one of their online shows with Coach S and Creighton. Christy Metzger was on it a couple times too. So they kind of did some live lookings like we were at the NFL draft. So pre-lock, they like just checked out my condo at the beach. I'm sitting there, 11 o'clock in the morning, eating a bowl of cereal or whatever. They just want to take a look at us, like they were checking in. But it's all good, Live final didn't work out how I planned. I had one lineup, and I kind of got cold feet stacking that Denver Utah game in game one, and I kind of played not to lose and not to win, and that was my error. But then again, you saw the same matchup yesterday, and Jamal Murray goes from stealing game to being garbage, and it was a blowout, but he just was not very good. So I still feel like I made some decent calls, and here we are. Time to move on. That's the thing about DFS. You need that short-term memory. Got to move on, and we got a great four-gamer today, my man. Let's get into it.
Yes, sir. I mean, listen, we're kicking it off. One of my favorite games on the slate. No spoiler alert. You guys know I love the late game hammer, but I like this Miami Pacers game, especially on DK where the salaries are, really, really fair, in my opinion, on both sides. Let's talk about it, man. Who you like from Miami here? What are you looking to accomplish?
You know what? I like a lot of Miami pieces, and it's tough to say because you think of these two teams kind of like a grimy series. A lot of defense. I like Bam on DK 7,500. Jay Crowder still questionable, by the way. Real time update there. But I like Bam. They ran a lot of that offense through Bam, a lot. And I've been targeting Miles Turner for forever. And as long as I've been with Rotogrinders, I don't think he's as good of a defender as it says on paper. Yeah, he averages a couple blocks a game. But, I mean, look what Joel Embiid did against him a couple of weeks ago. I'm not comparing Joel Embiid to Bam. But they ran a lot through Bam. These usage rates even spike even higher during the postseason. And his price only went up $200. This is a guy who's going to be aggressive. He's going to have his way. He's going to be able to rebound. So I really like Bam. Dragic 5,900 on DraftKings finally got the price hike that he probably deserves. And I'm hoping that drives a little bit of his ownership down. He's been great inside the bubble. He averages over 1.3 DK points per minute. I'm going off the top of my head here, his usage is like 27. This is across 100 and something minutes. He played 34 minutes against Indiana, and he only played 34 minutes 4 times in the regular season. So here's your classic load management, baby him during the regular season. Kendrick Nunn was a DNP. I like the Dragic, the Dragon, whatever you want to call him. I like him to keep rolling here, and I think he's a decent contrarian option on DraftKings because there are a lot of ways to go with value at the point guard position.
Oh, man, you're talking my language. Guess what? We have now going under the TP. We're hitting Chiefs' first lock button of the day. Two coming from this game. I am hitting the lock button on Goran Dragic and Bam Adebayo here. And I'm playing on FanDuel. But listen, lock button extraordinaire. No way I'm fading these guys at these prices. I was very pleased to see Goran Dragic get the minutes. Read an article, and I wish I had that article to put up there on the screen. But basically, you got Coach Spoelstra saying, look, we're here to win. We're not here to – this isn't about people's feelings. This is about trying to accomplish the goal, not the role. That's what he said. Those are the specifics. We're here to accomplish the goal, not to keep people in their role. I think Goran Dragic plays another 35 minutes today. I'm not saying Kendrick Nunn is going to DNP, but when you got Dragic at 35, I think that's helped to get Tyler Hero off the bench and give him solidified minutes in the playoffs. I'm really heavy on this Miami team today. Dragic, Butler, Bam, Hero. Those are some of my top exposures. Really excited to play this team. Lock button, folks. Bam, Dragic. That's just what I'm doing. I don't ever tell you to do exactly what I'm doing. But, if you're in the lower percentage category, I think you need to bump up your shares. I think this is a huge game for these guys. Indiana, what are we looking at over there?
I want to backtrack just real quick. Tyler Hero, 4,600 on FanDuel. This is a guy who played 34 minutes as a 20-year-old kid. A lot of trust in him. He's earned that playing time. He's been great. He's going to handle the ball a little bit when Dragic's not on the court, or maybe Dragic and Butler are off together. He only hit 1 3-pointer. He was 1 for 5 from downtown, I believe, in that game. 34 minutes, the kid averages just a shade under 1 point per minute. And I'm looking at our FanDuel projections. We have him at 5%. So he's a guy I'm going to be a little bit over the field. We have him going for just 21 FanDuel points. I'm probably going to customize that and bump that up just a little bit. Yeah, he's a guy. I'm not even looking at the screen right now, but I'm thinking you're liking what I'm saying here about Hero.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm going to have plenty of Tyler Hero. You guys know I don't mind telling you where I'm at. When I'm pulling up my bill right now, I'm at 30% Tyler Hero already. That's where I'm at right at this moment, and I don't plan on changing. If anything, it goes up. We're not going down on Tyler Hero here. So, I mean, as you guys can already hear, I am pretty heavy on this Miami team today. It's purely the price, and I think these guys are really underpriced here for the minutes they may play in this spot. Let's hop on back over to Indiana. I'm going to talk about a few guys here. On DK, I like Malcolm Brogdon at 6,900. I think that's fair. I'm not playing Victor Oladipo. I'm not playing Aaron Holiday. I'm not playing Miles Turner. I don't hate TJ Warren. Justin Holiday, if he picks up a few minutes at 3,900, I don't hate. But this team is pretty condensed in their minutes as well. Most of the minutes are going to be soaked up by Brogdon, Turner, Warren. And I do think Justin Holiday is a better player than Aaron Holiday, and that's just not recency bias. If they're going to have him at really low minutes, I can't play Aaron Holiday even with the start. Oladipo, I'm just fading because I don't think he's quite there. I think there are other guys I can get that have a little bit more ceiling for the price.
I don't mind Oladipo at 5,600 on FanDuel. We got poked in the eye. It's not like he had problems with his legs or anything. Obviously, we got to see if he plays. If he plays, I'm probably going to be less on those Holidays of the world, and then because I think that rotation will even be a little bit tighter. Edmund Sumter, don't chase that if Oladipo plays, in my opinion. He's a tough player regardless, but he saw a lot of run in place of Oladipo because he's a very similar wing player. One of the guys I have off the bench there. I'd probably staying away from Victor on DK, but I wouldn't mind having a few shares of Oladipo at 5,600. I'm not going crazy, but if he's active, I'll have a little bit. Other than that, man, I'm not really crazy about TJ Warren. Needed 4 steals to hit where he got last game. I don't think he's going to hit 4 steals again. The usage will be there, but if Oladipo comes back, that obviously takes a hit on Warren as well. I like Brogdon regardless, especially DK 6,800. He's been really good, and I think he'll get to where he needs to be. And he's a decent ceiling. Not the best matchup, but in a 4-game slate, you can't really be picky. So I think we're pretty close. Similar thoughts here. I'll have a little bit of Depot if he plays.
Good. I mean, I like it, man. If we don't have anything else, I think we're going to move on to the next game. OKC at Houston Rockets, which is really not an at because they're in the bubble. No one has a true home court advantage. Devin, let's go ahead and cue that Sharp Side promo. Listen, everybody, hop on in the Shark Side. We've got the streak contest going right now. Different price points for where you're at in your streak. If some of you are just, total failures like me and at a streak of 0, guess what? You can get that streak started back over again today. Start at 1. Let's get it rolling. And the higher up you go, the more bucks you're going to make. And in the end, you'll get that money deposited right into that FanDuel account. So a really good contest, which is going to lead me to my lock bet of the day. We've got OKC here at Houston. My boy Dennis Schroeder just had a terrible game against this team the last time out. But hey, I'm looking. He shot 3 for 12, put up 11 fantasy points. I think he's a little bit more efficient. I think he's a little bit more involved. The usage has always been there all season. Obviously, I think he's in running for 6th man of the year. I'm expecting Dennis Schroeder to go over 30 fantasy points today. I should be well over the field in terms of ownership. I know we've got him at 27. I think I'm sitting at about 40 right now. Not afraid of it. I think this is a prime time bounce back Dennis Schroeder spot. Don't get in your feelings about the previous performance and let it ride. So he's one of my favorite plays from OKC. Still going to have massive exposure to Chris Paul. I will say this. I'm hitting the Danilo Gallinari X button today. I think we got the upside from him the last game. With that price increase, I don't see Danilo as a guy that can consistently get 40. I just don't feel that way. He can consistently get 30 at 6,600 and 6,500 respectively on FanDuel and DK. I don't think it's worth it to pay the price. He got the X button for me immediately. And then my boy Steven Adams, 5,600. Got him projected at really low ownership on DK. I know he's only center eligible. I think you may need a little bit of value at center today, at least there or utility spot, specifically because you're going to want to pay up for a stud that's on the other side of this game or further on down the line. Justin, what are your thoughts on the OKC Thunder?
Yeah, I like Steven Adams a lot, and I don't think he matched up with a PJ Tucker small ball Houston team, after the Capella deal, and I was curious to see how they'd approach that because Billy Donovan's not afraid to roll out some Baisley or even roll out some Gallinari at the 5 if he has to. But Adams got pretty much his full allotment of minutes, 28 minutes, and a little bit of a blowout game, and he had his way with Tucker. And it's interesting to see this chess game, with the PJ Tucker matchup that the Rockets now roll out. And Adams had a great game, and I think he'll take advantage of it again. I think he's generously priced at 5,600. I think he should be at least like 62 or something like that. So I'm definitely – I don't even have to look. I'll probably be over the field on Steven Adams. I think he's fairly safe barring foul trouble or anything like that. I expect this game to be a little bit more competitive, and this team needs some veteran leadership here. You got Chris Paul, who did pretty much everything last game. He needs some help, guys. Dennis Schroeder and SGA can't play as bad simultaneously again, or else this game's going to be ugly again. SGA has had a couple of clunkers in a row. He's 6,600 on FanDuel, normally in the 7s, and I think that's a good bounce-back spot. I was on the pod with Kirkwood last night, and he felt the same way. He's the wild card here, as he said, and I agree with him. Something's got to give. OKC needs some contributions from one of these two guards, so I think it's worth taking a stab at them for sure. What do you think about the OKC side of the ball, Chief?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm really heavy on Schroeder today. My favorite guy. I've got more ownership on him from OKC than any other player. Chris Paul is coming in at a real close second. He's like 2 or 3% below. I wanted Chris Paul at about 40, couldn't quite get there, but I was comfortable where I'm at. So that's where I am, man. I've got massive exposure to Schroeder, Paul, and Steven Adams. I'm well over the field on those three guys. So listen, we're going to hop on over to the Houston side of the ball. I'm going to let you talk about James Harden. I've got a hot take today. People are going to think I'm crazy. Remember, I'm primarily playing on FanDuel today. There's a method to the madness when I give out the hot take. I'm going to kick it over to you, Justin. You don't even know what my hot take is. Can we play James Harden today? Of course we can.
Yeah, you're leaving me on a real cliffhanger here, man. Obviously, we saw what happened with the Lakers' first game, and it was all AD, all LeBron. We went over the numbers on the morning grind. LA couldn't buy a bucket from 3. LeBron still had 17 assists. We'll get there. And though they are absolutely in play, the ceiling's there, but it's hard. This is going to be real fun if you say I'm fading Harden, but it's hard to fade Harden because, listen, folks, he played 13 regular season games without Westbrook this year. His output and assist of 3 was his lowest. That number will be up. You're like, okay, well, he grabbed 11 rebounds. That's fluky. Without Westbrook, he averaged over 7.5 rebounds per game. So he's rebounding without Westbrook. He had a fluky low assist game, the lowest of that 13 clip sample size. His 37 real points, an efficient 37 from James Harden. I think he shot over 50% from the field. Was his 5th lowest of the 13-game output without Westbrook. He only played 34 minutes. If this game is close, we're going to see him around 40. The guy still put up like 6 Draftkings points. Everybody's like, man, we didn't get that 80 bomb, and then you have to wait and you see LeBron go off and all that. I'm going back to Harden here. I will have builds around my LA guys for sure, but I will have more Harden. I can't wait to hear what you have to say.
Ladies and gentlemen, please don't throw any tomatoes at the stage or heavy fruits. I will be fading James Harden today. Harden got the X button. This is my hot take. Harden's 11-7 on DK, 11-8 on FanDuel. I'm not telling anyone to fade Harden, okay? That's what I'm doing. Here's my reason why, and I'm not going to hop too far ahead because we'll discuss it. I think LeBron is James Harden right now with the amount of minutes he's going to play in the playoffs. They're not holding LeBron back. They're not holding AD back. I think both of these guys in the 10K range are going to be completely comparable to James Harden. I'm going to take the savings that I get and play more Jimmy Butler, play more Chris Middleton, play more of the mid-range guys alongside, all the other pieces that I'm playing. So I'm going to be well over the field on LeBron, just like I was Monday, well over the field on AD. I'm not telling anyone to fade James Harden. I'm just saying I think there's a road where we can do it and get the same upside from guys that are $1,000 cheaper. Just my personal hot take. I'm hitting the X button on James Harden today. If James Harden goes for 65, I can still win a tournament without James Harden. If he goes for 70, I can probably still get there as long as my anticipation. And I'm not into predicting the future. It's just what I see from LeBron and AD and these guys that are going to play massive minutes. Jimmy Butler's going to play upper 30s minutes. Bam is playing upper 30s minutes. LeBron's playing upper 30s minutes. AD's playing upper 30s. Dragic's playing upper 30s. Nurkic is going to play mid 30s. He's too cheap today. There are so many roads that I see that we can get a massively high floor, high ceiling lineup builds just by getting rid of James Harden. And it's mainly because I'm a little bit higher on LeBron for the price. Look, not telling anyone to fade James Harden. That's what I'm doing today. If Harden gets 70, I think I can still recover from it. If he gets 80, I might be in trouble.
Let's say this. Cash games, I think you play James Harden. I do.
No. Guys, I'm playing tournaments. Let me clear that up.
I just want to make
I'm not playing James Harden in tournaments. Cash games, totally different build.
Because I know that question was coming, so I figured we cut to the chase.
Yes.
And I will say this. I like your stand on FanDuel because you don't have that flexibility. On DK, you have so many guys that can play all these guard positions. There's a ton of value there too, but you can even, if you want to get nuts and like a huge GPP, you might be able to play Harden and like an AD together because there's so many like 4K guys. But if you want to get nuts, but look at the shooting guard position on FanDuel just to kind of help you out here a little bit.
It's loaded.
You got an underpriced Chris Middleton who hasn't really had a great game, but at 7K, he should walk and hit 35 FanDuel points, which is 5 times value. You got Jimmy Butler who should walk and hit 5 times value. I'm talking as like an average game. You throw in some steals and blocks in there, high minutes. You got a discounted SGA who's been pretty bad at 6,600. You got Victor Oladipo who, if he's healthy and plays 34, 35 minutes at 5,600, we know, he has 35-point upside. You got Schroeder who is always at that mid 5s range. We've seen him in the 6s. But you get a Schroeder bounce back game here. You have ways to go for tournaments. You got Tyler Hero below 5K. You got Terrence Ross hanging around there who hit a bunch of shots. So you have some depth at shooting guard on FanDuel where you're like, you know what? Like these guys that are floating around in the mid range have 50-point upside. We know James Harden has 90-point upside every now and then. But you can make a case for, what did you say, the under the TP chief call there? I'm not calling you crazy. I promise I won't throw anything at you.
Yeah, man, I've already got hit by a tomato by K-Mac LA, wiping off the tomato residue as we speak. Look, that's just my personal take. Now, here's the thing, though, guys, because, look, if I'm fading James Harden, you got to assume I'm loading up on other guys. I'm not just going to fade Harden just to do it. You got to think that through. Listen, I'm going to be massively over the field on Eric Gordon today. I like what I saw from Eric Gordon. I like where the minutes are. Eric Gordon has 40-point upside in any given spot. No Westbrook. They're going to stagger these guys, and Gordon can shoot the rock. If he gets hot, if James Harden has one of those rough playoff games and Gordon has to try to, help pull the team along until Harden gets going, I'm not saying Harden's going to be a failure, folks. I think he's going to be fine. I am going to be well over the field on Eric Gordon because I'm fading James Harden. So that's just where I am on this team. It's got nothing to do with Harden. It's got everything to do with the way I want my salary distributed on FanDuel. So there we have it.
Let me ask you this, Chief. Let me ask you this. I'm looking at our projected ownership here on FanDuel. We got Rocco coming off a couple clunkers, hasn't been shooting well, coming in at 54%. Price dip 6,700. I really wasn't really expecting him to come in that high, but if that's what we're looking at, what's your stance on Rocco?
Oh, I got the X button on Rocco today, X button. And I have the lock button on Eric Gordon. Let me just go ahead and tell you now. I've got 3 lock buttons today, and you've heard all 3 of them. Gordon, Dragic, bam. Those are my 3 lock buttons on FanDuel. Do with that information what you wish.
And you know what? Power forward is a wasteland today on FanDuel. And every other
Exactly.
slate, it seems like we're getting that way. Jeff Green got that price hike a little bit, 5,100. He's been playing some good ball, but I think I'm more prone to playing him on Draftkings. And the thing with this Houston team is why all these wing guys are so GPP, I think Eric Gordon's the safest because he's like number 2 in command and he's in the best form right now. Played 30 minutes. You know, he's obviously all back from that injury. But is it going to be Rocco? Is it going to be Ben McLemore? Is it going to be Jeff Green? Like, who's going to make their catch and shoot shots? Is it going to be PJ Tucker? Because that's what it is. That's where these points typically come from when it's James Harden driving in addition, catch and shoot threes. Eric Gordon is probably the best one out of that group to put the ball on the floor. So I think he offers a little more versatility for that offense. And he's my other, out of those guys we mentioned, those role players on Houston, he is also my favorite player. 4,900 on DraftKings. What is he on FanDuel, Chief?
Same price, 4,900
yeah.
on a spot where you got, tons of value at small forward. I feel like he's the best value, which is why I hit the lock button. And look, guys, when I hit the lock button, I'm living or dying with my decision. If they come through, I'm good. Listen, Justin will tell you, I show him my screenshots every night. Like, he knows exactly how I play, exactly what I'm thinking. If it hits, I'm good. If it doesn't hit, I'll live with it and see it tomorrow. But most of this bubble season, I've been right there. I'm just going to keep plugging along. My boy Tori J just hit me with 2 more tomatoes. Dang, Tori. I'm trying to look at my screen here, but I got this red juice in my eye. I can't even see clearly. But I do like Jeff Green at the center spot. He asked about Jeff Green. I do think Jeff Green is still going to be in play. I think we took a lot of time at this game because of my hot take. I'm going to go ahead and move us along to
it's
the
an
next
important
game.
It's an important game.
Exactly. Here we go. Your Mickey Mouse, Minnie Mouse, Disney World, not the home team, Orlando Magic, put a stomping on the Milwaukee Bucks on Monday. They are back at it again. Vegas comes in and showing this team no respect. Yet again, Milwaukee minus 13. Got a team that did the same thing last year against Toronto. Steve Clifford is a coach that I do like because he's a defensive-minded coach, wants his team to play hard. I didn't get a chance to watch this game, so I didn't get a chance to look at the film. So I don't know if there were bad shots taken or anything like that. The other games I did get a chance to watch, so I was able to kind of see what was happening. Looks like we've got Markelle Fultz here, cheap again. Evan Fournier, cheap again. James Ennis, cheap again. And Aaron Gordon may or may not be back. I've been following that closely. Still don't have anything for sure. Justin, what are we going to do with the shock of the world, Orlando Magic?
Oh, man. I like the Bucks to bounce back here. This was the punch in the face they probably needed. Orlando was playing some pretty bad ball before the postseason, dinged up with injuries. I want to see what's up with Aaron Gordon. I haven't heard anything after his questionable tag here. Augustine had 11 and 11 in 23 minutes. Fultz played 29 minutes, played a pretty efficient game. On DK, Fultz is 45 now. Augustine's 43. On that slate, I believe Augustine was like 35. And I talked about this in the pod a little bit yesterday. I don't know if you could play them together at these prices, maybe. But, I talk about, their prices are in the mid-4s now together. There's still a chance of a blowout. I don't think there's a way Budenholzer is going to let Vooch go for 35 again. I just feel like there has to be some kind of an adjustment. And you know what? They made the Gary Clarks of the world beat them. Gary Clark took 12 shots, all threes, made 4 of them. James Ennis took 5 shots. 3 of them were three-pointers. Evan Fournier had a clunker, So I kind of like Fournier and a bounce back. I'm not thrilled about his upside. But I do think Orlando's going to have to shoot fairly well again from beyond the arc to kind of hang in there. And, they made 16 threes last game. Fultz isn't the best three-point shooter, and he's getting 29 minutes. So I do worry about a little bit of a blowout here. I know there's 4 games, and usually I try not to worry about blowouts, and the Magic looked really good. But Vooch was 15 for 24 from the floor. Are they going to have that type of success if he plays at that rate again, Chief?
Look, I think Vooch can still get there even in a blowout. We did get a price increase. And look, a lot of this right now is hinging on whether or not Aaron Gordon plays. If he does play, is he going to get 30 minutes? I'm not sure. I'm personally just not going to play Gordon at all. And I have limited my exposure. I'm not playing DJ Augustine only because, for me, guys, and this is just my personal deal breaker or tiebreaker, if you will, I like guys that are going to play minutes. And if you're a low output guy, if the usage isn't there and the fantasy points per minute aren't really there, I don't really like to play you in limited minutes. So if I'm going to play a guy that's playing 22, 23 minutes, I like to see him in that 1.2, 1.3, fantasy point per minute, 1.1 fantasy point per minute category, somewhere up in there. I don't think DJ Augustine gets enough minutes to hit this upside every game. So I'm going to take my chances and hit the X button, and I'll play Terrence Ross, and I'll play Fultz, who's getting close to 30 minutes. Those are the ancillary pieces I prefer to play. I do think Evan Fournier is a bit too cheap, like 5,100 on FanDuel at small forward. I think that's just a little bit too cheap. So I'm going to have a fair amount of Fournier, but overall, I'm not playing Augustine today. Don't hate Vooch. I think I'm probably going to be right in line with the field on him in terms of ownership, but I'm going to be over on Ross and over on Fournier, and maybe a touch over on Fultz for sure.
I like Fultz. He played more minutes. He's with the starting unit, like you said. The upside's there. I like a guy who could score over a guy who, Augustine had 11 assists, and those Magic guys were hitting their threes. For me, I'll take the guy who's a little more aggressive in Fultz. I don't hate either of them. On DraftKings, they're both pretty cheap. I will say a guy that I'm going to be over the field on this is probably George Hill. He played starters minutes, depending on what Wesley Matthews offers you. Side note here, Oladipo is available to play, so hopefully we get a little more info in the next hour here. Available can mean a lot of things, but
yes,
I'm thinking he plays some pretty good minutes, just with a poke in the eye kind of thing. But yeah, I do like George Hill as a cheap piece in this game, and I think he's a little bit of, people might chase the Augustine box score, and I think you get a little bit of leverage there with George Hill. So he's interesting. And like I said it before, Middleton is cheap, and he hasn't really had a good game in a while. The thing is, at $7K, he doesn't have to be really good to give you what you need. High floor guy typically. I think Milwaukee comes out and plays a lot better. That was pretty embarrassing for them. So I'm just kind of spitting names here on both sides of the ball that I'm into. And yeah, Vooch, he's only 83 on FanDuel. It's not like he's 95. So it's not like I'm disregarding Vooch here. I don't like a ton of the center plays at their price point on FanDuel. So I definitely will have some Vooch exposure. And based on our ownership projections on FanDuel, it seems like everybody feels the same way. There's nobody projected over 30% right now on FanDuel. I do think Brook Lopez has a chance to bounce back after that clunker. Just kind of, saying what I'm seeing here off the top of my head. I probably won't have a lot of Miles Turner. If you listen to any podcast, I'm not typically a Miles Turner guy, especially with everybody healthy. What are you thinking, Chief?
Yeah, man, let's hop on this Milwaukee side. Bledsoe is really cheap on DK, and the ownership reflects that. We got him projected about 37% right now. I think that's okay. Chris Middleton, we've got him projected at 14% at 7.2K. And this one actually really caught me off guard. I expected Giannis to come in closer to 30% today. We've got him at 18.4 in terms of projected ownership right now on DK. I was just shocked to see that. I thought he'd be closer to 30 today. No big deal. Brook Lopez, closer. He's around 35% on DK. Only center eligible. That tells you kind of where we feel like owner sentiment is for ownership there. So I don't hate Brook Lopez at 5K. I think he's got 30 to 35 point upside. I'm not saying he goes out and gets a 40 spot. Occasionally he'll have those 4 or 5 block games, and on a site like FanDuel, 4 or 5 blocks can really put you, set you apart at the center position. So I don't hate it. You talked a little bit about George Hill at 4K, and if I'm not mistaken, if I'm remembering the playoffs last year, this is pretty much the same scenario where Bledsoe and Hill kind of split the minutes. This isn't anything new. I mean, Hill was playing mid-20s, upper 20s minutes last year. I think it continues at 4K. I think he's squarely in play on this slate for value.
He's a trustworthy guy who actually led the NBA, I think, in 3-point field goal percentage this year. That's interesting. So put him out. I mean, clearly they trust him. And, I think he's a decent little value play if you're kind of pivoting off some of these Magic guys. I do want to ask you one question, backtracking to the Magic side of things. What's your take on James Ennis if Aaron Gordon plays?
I'm not playing James Ennis if Gordon is in or out. X button. Guys, my player pool is really trimmed most days. I take shots on guys that I feel like have the upside when I'm playing cheaper guys. James Ennis does not get 30 fantasy points on the regular. Let's just put that out there. He's really more of a 20 to 25 point guy, sometimes under 20 if things don't break his way. So I'm not thrilled about playing James Ennis. I'm just hitting the X button. That's just my statement.
I don't mind Ennis on DK, especially just with kind of making my builds here. If Aaron Gordon is not limited, I don't like him as much because Ennis has been rebounding. He's been getting rebound points regardless, and he's been scoring kind of double digits. So if you get 24 out of him, that's 6 times value, 4K. It's fine. But I will kind of probably make some decisions if I see Aaron Gordon is going to play because obviously I know that rebounding total will probably take a hit too. Magic are going to be tricky to figure out. You throw Aaron Gordon in there, you knock a little more usage off your Augustines and your Markelle Fultzes too, right? So that him on the court affects quite a bit on that Magic side.
Yeah, for sure. I think that about wraps it up for this Orlando Milwaukee game. Let's move to the premier game of the night in terms of television. I think this is the one that most people will watch because they'll still be at home, kicking back with some wings, kicking back with a burger. We're not going to get into food. If you want food, you got to catch us on the podcast. We will be talking about it later tonight. The Portland Trail Blazers, one of the hottest teams in the bubble, outside of the Phoenix Suns, which are sitting at home, which is very disappointing, versus those Los Angeles Lakers of LeBron and Anthony Davis. My boy, Justin, what are we doing with the Portland Trail Blazers?
They just don't stop, do they? They just don't stop. They got to be tired, but they're not. Dame keeps getting it done. Lillard, where we've seen some 70-point games out of Lillard. He had like I said, a pedestrian 35, 4-4, very efficient game, 35 real points. Awesome game from Dame. They got it done. And I know what you're saying about Harden, and I totally get it because I will have exposure to these Lakers studs. AD, 33% usage last game. He had 28 real points and shot 33% from the floor. Nobody else on this team is getting anything done besides him and LeBron. It's the epitome of a two-man game. If you're going to I love the block upside with AD, block steal upside on FanDuel for sure. And you could definitely build with AD, and he has 70-point upside too. So basically what I'm getting at is James Harden probably has the highest floor on this slate, especially if you're playing cash games. But I do like these Lakers. Portland can be scored on. And it's kind of what we talked about last week on the podcast. Who's going to guard either him or LeBron on this Portland team? And the answer is nobody. Nobody. Zach Collins is out. He was a sweet matchup regardless. Carmelo is not going to guard either one of them. Nurkic, does he have the lateral quickness to see maybe some AD at the 5 tonight? Maybe we see some AD at the 5? No. He definitely does not. And then LeBron, the Blazers are really missing that Al-Farouq Amino type guy, that Mo Harkless type guy to throw at a guy like LeBron because that Trevor Ariza guy that they brought in, he's not there. There's nobody. And that's no disrespect to anybody on Portland, but what does LeBron call it? 0 Dark 30 mode when he shuts off his Twitter, and he didn't do that. But you look at LeBron in the bubble, he was casually having 50-point Draftkings game, running up and down the court, making jokes with Michael Porter Jr., smiling and laughing. He didn't care about the bubble games. Here we are. It's game time. And they still lost to Portland. They don't have any help. None of those guys can hit their shots. So I'm AD and LeBron, man. Get your shares for sure.
Yeah, I'm with you, brother. I'm hitting the X button on Damian Lillard as well. I mean, I'm pretty much. And listen, guys, when I say I'm hitting the X button, sometimes it's a choice between what I want to do and what I feel like I have to do to get the exposures on everybody else that I want, right? So just because I'm hitting the X button, that doesn't mean I'm telling you to not play someone. And so I did want to clear that up. Obviously, I'm not going to tell you to not play James Harden. I'm not going to tell you to not play Greek. I'm not telling you to not play Damian Lillard. But what I am saying is, if I want to get more exposure to LeBron and more exposure to AD than the field, I have to trim it off somewhere. And if I feel like LeBron has equal upside to the other studs on the slate, and he's one of the cheaper ones, and I feel like Anthony Davis has equal upside, and he's a little bit cheaper. Like Anthony Davis is cheaper than Dame, and I feel like Anthony Davis has more routes to get the 60 fantasy points than Dame does. Dame has to score about 45 real points probably to get closer to 60 fantasy points,
Agreed.
Where Anthony Davis could get about 28, 10 rebounds, 3-4 assists, 2 or 3 blocks, and he's about there. So it's never saying I don't want to play a guy or something like that. It's really more thinking through the scenario, right? And especially on a site like FanDuel, like me and Justin talk about, where positions are locked in and salary distribution is locked in, I'm willing, and I'm fading Giannis on FanDuel too, for what it's worth. I know I didn't say that, but it's because I want massive exposure to LeBron James. I want massive exposure to Anthony Davis. And the only way that I'm able to do that and still get the ownership that I want on the other guys like Chris Paul, like Brogdon, I have to fade the 2 other studs. And that's the only reason I'm doing it. So, I'm just kind of giving you a little peek behind the curtain as to why I do that. So there we go. On the Blazer side, a guy I'm really high on today, didn't really come through for us the last game. I'm really high on Gary Trent. I know that he put up a stinker, didn't really play well. I'm more than willing to play a guy like Gary Trent at 4,800. You're asking me why am I going to fade James Enos? James Enos is projected at 42% on FanDuel, on DK, folks. We've got Gary Trent projected at 10%, who, while, he's a little bit more expensive, I think he has higher upside most days than James Ennis. And it's the same thing on FanDuel. I'm going to be well over the field on FanDuel on him. He's probably my favorite Blazer, him and Carmelo. I like Carmelo more on FanDuel, where he's 5,500 at a small forward spot. So that's kind of where I'm at. Last question on the Blazers, and then we'll kind of talk about a little bit more of these of the Lakers, and maybe what do we do if Rondo's in, if Rondo's out? Then we'll take some questions, maybe at about 12:10. What are we going to do with Hassan Whiteside at 4,900? I'm going to put this teaser out there. Hassan Whiteside had 5 blocks the last game. I'm not expecting 5 blocks. What do we do with Whiteside at 4,900 if we think he's going to get 25 minutes yet again?
I mean, I won't have a lot of them. I see stuff like that, and that's a crazy outlier, especially on FanDuel. And if anybody knows me, they know I hate blocks and steals. Some NFL fantasy leagues are getting rid of kickers. I just want to get rid of defensive stats. I'm probably the minority on that, but it just really grinds your gears when a guy who's chalk, or I'm not saying he was, but chalk guy gets 5 blocks and steals. How does that make you feel? Pretty bad. But it happens. It's part of the game. So I'm not going to have a ton of Whiteside. I'm just thinking here, point LeBron. I mean, look what happens when some of these guys who don't always handle the ball, see 75% of their offensive possessions with the ball in their hands. Look what Donovan Mitchell's upside is with the ball in his hands. Look what Joe Ingles has been doing, with the ball in his hands. Look what LeBron has done running the point. Look what Jimmy Butler does when he just takes over in the fourth quarter and just takes the ball every possession, So these are the guys you want who are handling the ball. And, even if Rondo plays, how much is he really going to play? I'm just guessing it probably won't be a ton. So, and I do think, depending on where you go with value, if you're getting crazy in large field GPPs, you can play LeBron and AD together. They are the epitome of a 2-man game. And if this game's going to be close and Portland doesn't really play much defense, it's going to be these 2 guys that are getting it done. And both of them have many paths to get there. Like you said, you made a great point. Damian Lillard is typically scoring dependent. He has his games where he has 10, 11 assists here or there, but he doesn't really rebound. He doesn't oftentimes have 10 or 11 assists, He's a scoring point guard. LeBron and AD both fill it up. And I do like Giannis. How do you not like Giannis? You like Giannis all the time. Per dollar on DraftKings, I do like these 2 LA guys a little bit more than Giannis. You talked about the flexibility, kind of why you're fading Harden at his price. And the path to, when you're playing MMA, you talk about how many paths to victory do they have. Well, I think both these, AD and LeBron both have paths to victory in terms of hitting value tonight. Anyway, Portland side of the ball, I don't want to have a ton of Whiteside. I'm not sure exactly what I'm playing yet on FanDuel. If I'm playing large field, like the $3, 150 max kind of thing, I'll have a couple shares, sure. Maybe Nurk gets some foul trouble. I don't know, but I'm not crazy about the whole Whiteside thing.
Gotcha, man. And I appreciate you sharing that. Another guy I did want to highlight, I am well over the field on Nurkic on FanDuel. Nurkic is under 8K on FanDuel, folks. 7,700. I know he only put up 35 the other night, but we've seen Nurkic put up over 40, over 50 in this bubble. I think there's a road for him to do it. I mean, even the other night, man, put up good stats. Didn't maybe have as many blocks and stuff, but I like Nurkic here. I think he's too cheap on FanDuel. I think he's the best center play on FanDuel today for what it's worth. And then, back over to the Lakers. I talked about Gary Trent. Back over to the Lakers here. We don't know if Rajon Rondo is going to play. I don't think it's that important. I don't have any shares right now. But what I will say is this. Rondo's 3K on DK. He's 3,800 on FanDuel. If we heard that he was going to play, I would assume he got 20 minutes. How do we feel about Rondo in 20 minutes? I'm not sure, but I just want to put that out there. I'm not saying he's playing, but he is the minimum on DK, which I think makes it a little bit more interesting when you're talking about whether you consider playing him or not. If he gets 20 minutes for 3K, could put up 25, 30 points. Don't hate it. Don't love it. But just something to put out there, keeping your back pocket. He could be a guy you could squeeze in late, especially if you need to swap someone out at the end of the night.
Rondo is a guy who could put up an ugly 5, 6, and 4 stat line, and at 3K, that's not the end of the world. And Portland's bottom third in the league in defending pick and roll points per game. And what does Rondo do? He runs the damn pick and roll all the time. So I don't mind taking some flyers if we know Rondo's getting 20 minutes. The Lakers need all the help they can get right now. They're not getting any from anybody outside of LeBron or AD. Danny Green's got to do something. That's why they got him, right? How big of a miss is Avery Bradley right now to this team, Chief?
I think he's a huge miss for this team defensively. I mean, if you watch the games, listen, I watched Dame in that last game just come down the middle of the floor with no resistance. You got to think Avery Bradley would have been providing some resistance on a lot of these perimeter plays. So, and Danny Green, I think, is a guy they thought would do that. But listen, I'm not going to completely blame him. In the NBA, team defense is a big deal. And listen, you need guys that can guard one-on-one, but you need somebody that's going to help. You need somebody that's going to, be able to shade the opposite side. I don't know what's going on with the Lakers, but in terms of their perimeter defense, but if they don't fix it, it's going to be a detriment to their championship run. That's all I got on this game. We're going to try to take some questions. Guys, if you have questions, let's start throwing those things into the YouTube chat. I'm not sure if we have any in the regular NBA chat, but let's go. We're going to stick with these YouTube questions. Justin, I'm going to try to read them and kick them to you. If you could handle most of the DK questions, I would appreciate it. I'm going to try to handle FanDuel, and I'm just going to start here with Sean. Sean, I don't want to mess up your name. I think it's either Coin or Cone. So let's go with that. Don't want to mess it up. Anyway, Sean, this from Sean, Duncan Robinson, 3.9K on DK. What do you think, Justin?
I think, cheap GPPs, you could play him. He looked horrible in the first game. He just couldn't make a shot. This is a guy who's historically had one of the best 3-point shooting seasons ever. He kind of looked a little bit lost. I'm a little worried about Tyler Hero picking up a lot of minutes. He's a guy who's very scoring dependent. So depends what you're playing. I'm not playing him in cash games. I'm not playing him in high stakes. If you're playing in a GPP with like 100,000 entries, you'll probably get pretty good ownership on him. So he's worth the stab, but that's probably the only consideration I would make with him.
Here we go. We got favorite value play on FanDuel, power forward. I think for me, it's going to be Jeff Green. I think that's where I'm headed today. I know he's 5,100. I think he's going to be my favorite value. Oklahoma fan, this says, who's your hat? If you're asking about me, this is my Charlotte Hornets hat. I am a Charlotte Hornets fan grudgingly right now, but hopefully that will pick up. Kelly O for value at center. I don't think so. I think the minutes are down now. I think this offense, like we talked about, is going to run through Bam. I think Bam's going to handle most of the minutes. Here we go. We've got a question here. It says LeBron, Clark, or AD in house. Not sure what site. I'm going to maybe assume FanDuel because we're kind of swapping salaries. Landon, let's see if we can clear that up. I promise I will circle back. As of right now, I would prefer LeBron and Clark, but it's really close.
If Anthony Davis is it, I'm sorry. If Aaron Gordon is in, I'm probably out on Clark unless he's like super limited. I know Gary Clark can get there, but it's like reliant on the 3 ball, right? So yeah, that's tough. And I'm not crazy about Daniel House right now either. But
yeah, me either.
Making Eric Gordon combo work in that one somehow.
There we go. Yeah, and I said that earlier. Somebody asked a question. I'm kind of out on House because with Gordon there, I think it's taking away his upside. Thoughts on Duncan Robinson value on FanDuel? I think it's okay, but the price between him and Hero isn't that big of a difference. I think you just try to get Hero instead of Robinson on FanDuel. This is from Brandon. Don't want to insult you here, Brandon. McGee or Dwight Howard? I say neither. Justin, what say ye?
Nope, I'll pass.
Here we go. Alex, Bo, Alex, Bob, Alex. Here we go. Thoughts on stacking Giannis with Middleton on DK, Justin?
I mean, Middleton is cheap enough that it could happen. It wouldn't be my first move. You're also banking on that being a close game as well. Vegas has it at 12.5. I know the Magic won the first game for sure. I think it'll be contrarian. I do. Giannis could go for 70 and Middleton could go for 42, but the game's got to stay close. So I think you'd have to run it back with someone from Orlando if that's the way you're going to go. You'd be different for sure.
Yeah, I like it. Here we go. Best value on DK. That's another one for you, Justin. Who you got best value? I've got a guy I want to throw in the hat. I'm going to let you roll it first.
I mean, what do you consider value? For 5K, we both like Eric Gordon on the show. Honestly, we know these rotations are tight, and there's not a lot of players under 4K that I'm willing to play, for decent amounts of money today. Obviously, you got to consider the Magic guys. I do like George Hill. A lot of guards here we're talking about. Fultz is going to get that run. If that game's close for 3 quarters, I would think Fultz is pretty safe. So if we're talking, safe guys under 4,500, 4,500 or less, I think it's Fultz for me. But I do like George Hill. The playoff minutes are real.
There we go. Justin, let's go lightning round. We're about 3 minutes against the clock here. I'm going to throw it out. We'll fire them out. Here we go. Do you like playing Giannis and LeBron together? That's going to be a no for me. And that was for DraftKings. That's going to be a no for me. On FanDuel, what is the punt position? I think you're going to punt one small forward. I think that's the way you're going to do it. Or you're going to punt one shooting guard. Or punt one power forward. I think you're punting one in one of those spots and spinning up on the other ones. Here we go. I would be running House and Gordon together. No, don't want to do that. Value centers on FanDuel. Let's go Steven Adams. Let's go Lopez. Brooke Lopez, not Robin. Mark Cole, thoughts on Schroeder? Schroeder is my guy today. Really over the field. I got about 40% Schroeder. Sorry, I'm rolling through these FanDuel.
No, go for it, my man.
Oladipo and Schroeder. Thoughts there? I don't hate it. I'm not as high on Oladipo. I don't feel like he's quite there. Schroeder's my guy. Here we go. DK, Adams in center and Whiteside and util. What do you think?
I'm still not big on Whiteside, man. I don't know. I know he had 4,900. I mean, you need a lot of things to go right there for Whiteside.
Mm-hmm. Here we go. Mad Hatter. First move on FanDuel. Who you locking right away? For me, it's Goran Dragic at 6,100 playing 35 minutes. Thoughts on Schroeder on DK?
Yeah, why not? I mean, 5,500 GPP, score independent guy, but he'd get there. Decent matchup. They need either him or SGA to get going, and it's going to be one of them.
Here we go. 1 minute away. First move on not that one. Schroeder and Nurkic versus Hero Vucevic on FanDuel. I'm going Schroeder, Nurkic all the way today. FanDuel, CP3 Augustine and Danny Green or Hill, Fultz, and Middleton. As of right now, I go Hill, Fultz, Middleton. Anthony or Gordon, FanDuel small forward. Let's go Gordon. Eric Gordon. That's what I would do. Eric Gordon there. Best DK utility under 4K for you, Justin. 1 minute out.
Best UT. Well, here we go. Scrolling down. George Hill. Pencil him in.
There we go.
Oh, he's 4K flat.
Thoughts on Jay Crowder? Not playing Jay Crowder today. Not for me. DK, M. Morris is a value. I would say no on that one. What about you, Justin?
No, I'm good on Markieff.
Here we go. FanDuel Whiteside versus Tucker for center punt. I think I'd actually just side with Whiteside for the upside. I think you find the money and get up to Lopez. Thoughts on Jeff Green? Love Jeff Green today. Been playing in the whole bubble. Not going to fade him now. Any value for center?
Like him on DK, 3-point bonus.
Any value for center? Ladies and gentlemen, I am so sorry. Hate to cut off the questions. Looks like we were getting a lot of Jeff Green questions. We like him. Would you play Schroeder and SGA on FanDuel? That would be a negative. I'm going to side with Schroeder over SGA, even though I still think SGA has the upside. Ladies and gentlemen, it is 12:20. We have hit the end of the show. Thank you guys for joining us. For Will, Chief Justice 06, for Justin Carlucci DeLuch, we are out of here. Catch you next time.